afternoon. Welcome to Civic Plaza. This is Truckin' Tuesday, which is not the point of today's press conference, but I want to make sure everybody understands that a couple of years ago, Gilbert Montano in my office, we were working on ways to revitalize Civic Plaza, and we wanted to make sure that we were honoring the micro entrepreneurs and people that had food trucks. So any Tuesday, you are welcome to come down to Civic Plaza and get some great food. I've eaten, I think, at every one of these trucks, and it's good stuff. So as we listen to Felix and his guys in a little bit, I'll be doing that to some of the great food here. Let me, first of all, say thank you. We're making an announcement today about the music ecosystem in Albuquerque. And if you hear from the media, or if you hear from the music industry, you're going to walk away with our report and with really what I consider a roadmap moving forward to leverage the great work that's already being done and the great leadership that is in Albuquerque and the great musicians and the talented people that are part of our music scene. But about a year ago, I pulled Gary Opedal and my folks from economic development together, and I had a fairly simple sounding request that turned out to take about a year of study, and you're going to hear about that today. And that request was, how can we make Albuquerque a better place to be a working musician? Now, if you live in Albuquerque like I have for decades, and if you get out and you enjoy the music scene here, you know that doesn't mean just one thing. That means lots of different things. That means different genres of music. That means different individuals, great leaders. You know, we just lost Al Hurricane this week, and that is a 60-year legacy of greatness. And on his shoulders have come, and in the foundations that he laid have come many, many great musicians. But there are other people in our community as well who have spent their lives making sure that this is a good music city. So I'm going to bring up a gentleman here in a few minutes named Michael Bracey, and he is the author of the music strategy report that we're handing out today. We're also going to bring up Madalena Salazar, who is from I Am Tour Grant Administrator, to talk about that. Special thanks also to Ed Garcia, who is a developer and a local businessman who is working with us to try to take this ecosystem forward. So we've made a lot of progress in Albuquerque over the last several years. Thank you, Gary, and your team on our entrepreneurship initiatives, from the Rainforest Building to Innovate ABQ to making sure that Albuquerque is a great place to be a startup community. Well, that goes for music as well. But then we also have individuals in our community that have been doing this. Tom is here, and others who've been doing this for decades. So how do we make Albuquerque a better music city, a better place to be a working musician, because it helps all of us do lots of things. Some of my friends know, in fact, Felix y Los Gatos and some of the groups in town have been kind enough to let me sit in for a song or two here or there. I know 4 chords and have 8 guitars, so that's my love for music, and that's as far as my talent goes. But we want to make sure that we're building this up, and we've made intentional efforts to reinvent music activities for our community. Tom does a great job with the Jazz Fest, the Summer Fest. We've taken them all over town now, and we're making sure that we're highlighting these great artists. Albuquerque was in their 13th year this year. Somos was a great local event this year, just in downtown Albuquerque. Marie and I were down there enjoying that. But the big question at hand is, what can we do to be intentional? How can we drive this ecosystem forward for anybody that wants to be in the music scene? This report will talk a lot about this, and they will talk about very specific things that we can do in the city of Albuquerque, and Michael's going to tell you some of those specifics. But what we also have to do is we have to take this report now, and we have to have somebody carry that on. So I will be standing up a task force of individuals, and many of their names are in here in this music report, to take this forward. So I'm in office about another 6 weeks. After that, we want this work to carry on. So I've asked my staff to come up with a few resources. Let's get some of the leaders that help put this together locally, take this to the next step, come back to the next mayor, whoever that turns out to be, next summer sometime in about 6 months, and remind him of this work. And let's see if we can get the next administration to continue this work and keep it moving forward. One of the things that we know we need to do, just like we did with our homelessness initiatives, just like we've done with other great programs and initiatives in Albuquerque, is we have to break down some of the silos. We have great people doing great work in very specific areas, but we can do much more if we can combine efforts reduce redundancies, fill in some of the gaps. And Michael's going to talk about that here in just a few minutes. And then once again, we're going to hear Felix y los Gatos, who are going to play some great music for us here over the lunch hour. Before I bring Michael up, I want to thank a few people. I want to thank certainly Gary Opedal, who's my Director of Economic Development, Eric Rice-Whitmore, who's our Entrepreneur Development Manager. Eric, thank you. Our entire team in Gary's shop. Frank Mitterball, who is actually my Director of Innovation in the city of Albuquerque. His office is just down right outside of my office in the mayor's on the 11th floor. Frank has been spearheading this for me. Thank you so much for that. Frank, great musician, by the way, great Prince tribute not too long ago with his band. And then Marilena Salazar from I Am Tour Grant Administrator for joining us, and she's going to talk about a new city partnership to do this as well. And then, of course, Felix y los Gatos, and then Michael Bracey, who's going to talk here in just a minute. But I just want to thank all the people that came together. This was a year-long effort. This involved surveys in the community. It involved deep dive discussions. It involved working groups. It involved pulling musicians into the mayor's office, having me go out in the community and talk, and really having my team go out and get really in-depth about what we need here. And as you look at this report, you're going to see lots of things that create a music ecosystem. We've taken tours. I didn't get a chance to go on. I was hoping, my biggest complaint about this was I didn't get a chance to go to some of these other music cities. But we are now joining collaboratives around the country. I've talked to other mayors of Austin, Mayor Barry in Nashville, Mayor Adler in Austin, and others who have been doing this work for a number of years and have some lessons learned for us. We're also sharing lessons learned from Albuquerque with them. We're not starting from scratch, but we really want this to get to the next level in Albuquerque. And it's going to be great for the musicians, but it's also going to be great for us and our families, and it's going to help us build a quality of life in our community that I know that we have all the parts and pieces. Let's just see if we can make it even better. So with that, I want to bring Michael Bracey up. He is the expert. He will tell you a lot about what we're doing and where we think we can go next in the city of Albuquerque. Michael, appreciate you working with us.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Awesome. What a beautiful venue. What a beautiful day. Thank you, Mayor Barry. As the mayor said, this has been about a year-long process to develop this work, and really my role in this coming from the East Coast is not to come to town and tell you guys what you need to do. It's to try to listen as much as I can, learn as much about the opportunities and challenges that you have here in this community, and how do we sort of mesh what's happening here and what could happen here with some resources and strategies and vision from across North America. And I've made a lot of friends over last year. We've had a lot of good times. We've done a lot of deep thinking, and it's been fun. Today's a real special day for me. So just quick to give you a little bit of context. Again, Michael Bracey, I'm from Washington, D.C. I've been really fortunate to spend 20 years working at the intersection of music and public policy. A lot of that has been looking at stuff happening in Washington, D.C. But what has really made me excited over the last 5 or 6 years is the emergence of sort of a new way of thinking about the relationship between music scenes and communities, local government, the philanthropic sector, and the business sector. And you're starting to see a lot of very interesting kind of innovative thinking that is really going to help lift up these music ecosystems, and we're going to talk about that in some detail. It's really important, though, before we do that, to just again reiterate my appreciation, I think everyone's appreciation for the mayor and his vision and leadership to take this on, from Corey Cooper, Frank Mirabel, Department of Economic Development, Gary, Eric, Jose, the great workshops and the work that you do through Cultural Services, Dana, Eric, their team. And even beyond that, the dozens and dozens of people that have helped inform this report. A lot of them are thanked and listed inside this document. This really has been a true collaborative effort to try to come to the table with a great sense of creativity and purpose to make something that's going to work. Because I think we'd all agree we have enough pieces of paper floating around this world, right? If this thing, it can't be implemented, it's not particularly a great use of time. So quickly, why music strategies? I mean, look, big picture, music is much more than just some business sector. Music is how we love, it's how we celebrate, it's how we grieve. It's not a commodity. It's fundamentally human speech. And the music community has gone through a massive transformation in the last 20 years. It's been extraordinarily complicated. The way music is recorded, distributed, accessed, marketed has been completely transformed, in some ways creating tremendous new opportunities that wouldn't have ever been thought about before, and in some ways making it extraordinarily hard to make a living as a working musician. From another lens, music is such a big part of our social and our community identity. It's a big part of our quality of life. And increasingly, mayors and other city leaders are understanding that if you can have a thriving, sustainable local music ecosystem, that has a lot of other benefits for the community. So this city comes to this conversation at a fascinating time, because cities throughout North America are really starting to think creatively and strategically. And what's interesting is that Albuquerque is not trying to become Austin, Seattle, Nashville, Denver, or another city. What Albuquerque is trying to do is the best version of Albuquerque as it relates to the musicians that live here, the members of the music ecosystem that live here, and for the public. So how do we do this? We started with sort of core vision of 3 themes, and this is a little bit wonky, and I'm going to kind of read it a little bit, and I promise I won't read the whole report. But these are important. The first theme is artist revenue. So musicians in this community, they need paid gigs, they need other ways of making money so they can generate income, they can grow their audience, and they can perfect their craft. In this very complicated, evolving digital marketplace, revenue opportunities can include live performances, licensing music for use in advertisements or soundtracks, receiving grants, being commission work, teaching, and a host of traditional and emerging revenue streams. Secondly, we have to be super intentional about audience development. We live in a very, very, very complicated kind of cultural and entertainment ecosystem where people can go and they can just chill and watch Netflix, they can go play video games, they can be hanging out on social media, they can be doing so many things with their time. We have to be really thoughtful about how do we engage audiences. And that requires aligning strategies to increase awareness of all the amazing things happening in this music community, directly engage existing and potential audiences, and increase both the emotional engagement and the monetary investment from the community. That can be fans, that can be nonprofits, that can be corporations. Finally, we have to be super intentional about what we call cultural infrastructure. So successful music scenes need to have thriving support structures. They need promoters, they need critics, they need distributors, publicists, managers, labels, accountants, booking agents, video producers, and other members of the community that provide the core infrastructure that allow musicians to reach audiences and sustain careers. So the community needs to really intentionally engage with this emerging network of industry leaders, strategists, researchers, policymakers, philanthropists that are leading the way. So that's a lot, right? How do we get to trying to take those big picture concepts and put them into something manageable that can be implemented? The first is, as I said before, we try to do a lot of listening. So we did community surveys, listening sessions, one-on-one meetings, workshops, and I learned so much about the amazing things happening here. The mayor said, the Outpost, Jose's educational outreach efforts, Albuquerque National Hispanic Cultural Center, great local music journalists, city efforts like Live and Local, a real spirit of community and collaboration, super interesting models in the entrepreneurial and innovation space, things like creative startups. It is a really vibrant town you have going here. It is so exciting. So then as we started to understand what are people interested in and what's helpful, then we wanted to connect that to colleagues across North America to kind of think about where we could bridge that. How could we take some of the ideas and strategies that are working elsewhere or not working elsewhere, and how can we bring them into this city in ways that are able to implement? So we sent delegations to a Music City Summit in Toronto, we did site visits in Denver and Fort Collins, we brought a delegation of leaders from Colorado to come here to meet with you all for a couple of days, and no surprise to you, every single person we reached out to over the last 10 months, when asked if they could be interested in helping support Albuquerque in this process, they said, sign me up, I want to be there. Let me come to Albuquerque, let me learn about the city, let's see how we can help. So over the spring and summer, we workshopped a ton of ideas, and we tried to take them from being concepts into actual, real, implementable strategies. And that's the meat of this report, 16 distinct strategies that all can have benefit towards those 3 goals we talked about. So the mayor mentioned this, and I want to really emphasize this. How is this going to work, right? Again, who cares what's on paper? So the first goal, as Mayor indicated, is you got to have sort of a launch team, kind of a core group of people, of stakeholders that are involved in this process, that understand why it's important, that have standing and networks in the community, that are going to meet as a group to really figure out how do you take these things and make them work. And do that in partnership with a much broader network that we're calling an activation team, which are leaders in the community that can help support 1 or 2 or 3 of these specific recommendations, but don't have to worry about the whole thing. And one of the hallmarks of any successful music strategy is having an ongoing, accessible, and transparent bridge between the music community, the city government, the philanthropic sector, and the business community. And the way to do that is really up to you. So one of the main goals over the next 6 months as you're launching this project is to decide what is going to be that ongoing sort of feedback loop that's going to be sustainable and going to be successful. That can sit as a standalone nonprofit, that can be inside city government, that can be a public-private partnership. There are a lot of ways to do it, and a lot of cities have different examples of how to do it. You're going to have to develop what works best for you. That's going to be a big priority. So again, we have 16 recommendations, which I am not going to read because we're going to have music and tacos. But we're going to talk about some of the things that are already happening. A major theme throughout this report is the concept of alignment. A lot of people are doing a lot of stuff like any music scene. This is typical of any music scene. You've got a lot of people, grassroots, punk rock, making stuff happen. There needs to be an effort to take a lot of those sort of diffuse efforts and try to align resources, particularly when we look at the different agencies that work in the public space, whether it's at the city, county, region, or state. We want to be taking some very successful programs that are working elsewhere and being very intentional about how we bring that into the community. And Madalena is going to talk about her work with IMTOR and the Western States Arts Federation in a minute. We want to be sure we're building that pipeline of advisors and supporters, because the music industry, especially for bands who have the ambition to grow beyond Albuquerque, the music industry is dependent on relationships and reputation. And so this city is going to be very intentional in terms of helping build those bridges and build those networks and get those network in that ecosystem I talked about before, get people cognizant of what's happening in the city, build those relationships, and help those artists be ready to grow and sustain their careers. We're also going to be looking at ways of connecting the city into, again, their colleagues that, and sister cities or other cities that have been working on strategies for a long time. Albuquerque has been invited to join the Music Cities think tank, which is a kind of a closed network of city leaders in Seattle, Nashville, Austin, and elsewhere that are sort of brainstorming strategies and lessons learned and best practices. The Ella Project, which is an amazing nonprofit in New Orleans, is in conversations with the city about building an exchange program to bring New Orleans artists and community cultural leaders here to Albuquerque to meet with you and learn more about what you're up to and do some artistic collaboration, and then bring a bunch of you back to New Orleans to have some fun in that city. We are extraordinarily excited about an emerging partnership with Warehouse 508, where we are connecting them with a Denver nonprofit called Youth on Record, and using through the mayor's office an initiative called My Brother's Keeper, which is helping connect opportunity youth and looking at specifically how culture can be a tool to help these opportunity youth kind of find their way. But I guess I'll close, and I went on too long, I apologize. But when I presented this before, I did an hour and a half, so I feel good about keeping it to 12 minutes. But I just again want to really thank the mayor and his team and the city and everybody that we've had the enormous pleasure of working with in this project. We can't wait to see it implemented. We can't wait to work with you on specifics of making this thing happen. I'll be around after this session if you want to talk, and my contact information is in the report. And with that, I'm super excited to bring up Madalena Salazar from the Western States Arts Federation.
Got it, yeah, got it in just too.
Oh, let me get that for you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Got to adjust for my short stature. Hello everybody, my name is Madalena Salazar and I am the IMTOR Program Manager. I'm really happy to be with you here today. I come from an organization called WESTAF, the Western States Arts Federation, and the IMTOR program is one of our newest programs from that organization. Our organization serves the 13 Western states from New Mexico north to Montana and west all the way to Hawaii and Alaska. And as a side note, I live now in Denver, but I was born and raised in Albuquerque. My family goes back many generations here. So I'm very excited to be able, you guys are gonna make me get all choked up. Thank you for that welcome again. But I'm really happy as an Albuquerque native to be here, where I have such deep roots and a city that means so much to me, to be able to partner with the city to support our artists through the program that I manage. WESTAF supports this region through supports this region's state, local, and community arts organizations through advocacy, professional development, and earned income technology programs that go back into supporting all of those organizations throughout our region. The newest of those earned income tech programs that also marries a little bit of our background in granting in performing arts is the I Am Tour program, which is the program that we've been talking about and mentioning. It is a website that's dedicated to matching contemporary indie musicians with with touring opportunities in nonprofits in the Western states. And in order to give those artists opportunities and those organizations incentive to book, we are able to also give those organizations grants to tour the roster artists. And so it kind of came out of our knowledge that independent musicians are some of the most exciting cultural producers throughout our region. But those musicians, as the mayor and Mr. Brazy has talked about earlier, lacked a lot of the support to professionalize their music careers. So through a related grant program that we run, that I also manage, called Tour West, who has supported many organizations here in New Mexico and throughout the West, we also knew that a lot of our nonprofit venues were really interested in looking for the new artists who would also engage a lot of our would engage with a lot of new and growing audiences as well. So the goals of I Am Tour were very much in strong alignment with the music strategy that Albuquerque itself came up with the support of a lot of the folks here in the mayor's office and stakeholders throughout the city. So the goals of I Am Tour are in strong alignment with the city's plan, but it is with our expert in tech and our regional network, as well as the professional development opportunities we can afford for artists to expand their reach and to professionalize their careers. So I'm, again, very happy to be able to talk more with you about the program. Please bring me back at other times to talk with each of you in greater depth, whether you're musicians or your nonprofit organizations looking to tour Albuquerque's artists in your venue, or if you are looking to book some of our other roster artists. We want to support the organizations here in the city, and as I said, this is very deeply personal to me as well. So I want to be back here often to ensure that we're getting these opportunities to keep the talent here, but also grow the profile of the artists that are part of this community, that make this community so strong, which I know it was the arts and culture of this city that took me to where I am today and got me doing the work that I'm doing. So please do, to get involved, you can reach the I Am Tour program at imtour.org, or please do contact me personally. Like I said, I'm here often. I want to be back more to work with you one-on-one to get these opportunities. So I know the city deserves this, I know our artists deserve this, and I know that the venues and other organizations that are building the vibrant arts and culture of the city really deserve this. So I am really looking forward to being able to ensure that we are growing the city in a way that is relevant and important for the city and its residents and artists. Thanks.